Top of the morning, mates. I hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome back to the channel. We've got another BMW in the shop. Imagine that. It's one of our favorites. We got an E70 X5 35D, similar to the one that we did last year, which is sitting right there. 2.9 tune in this one, SWIRL flaps, all the good stuff. There's a couple videos posted of the work we did to this. It's been just over a year now, no issues, no engine lights, runs strong. I just rolled 180,000 miles on mine. This one does not have nearly that mileage. A little bit more rusty, came from out east, I guess. And I noticed this one was a little bit louder pulling it in. That's because this one actually has a muffler delete, which I thought about doing, and I may now in fact do on mine because it does sound pretty sick. So this has all been done already. If we take a look at, customer has supplied a bunch of nice parts here, so we'll take a look at what he's got. Got a couple new belts here, new bolts for our fluid dampener. We got some gaskets for the intake manifold, of course our SWIRL flaps, Bimmertune, EGR race pipe, clutched alternator pulley, and this is the rest of our EGR kit. Got the bonnet open, mate. All right, first things first, we are going to remove this pipe. We are going to remove our strut tower brace over the radiator. We're going to remove this air box. And then before we remove the air box, we're going to loosen up this charge pipe. This is going to come off. That's going to give us some more room. And following that, we are going to remove the radiator fan assembly, which is going to give us lots of room for that EGR cooler, and also lots of room for the belts, which we're going to do, and that crankshaft dampener downstairs. All right, got some of the accessories off. Where's my light? So you can see what I'm doing. Mostly just the charge pipes. The air box is off. We're gonna remove this guy now and start unplugging the anti-shutter valve. And then we are going to move to some connectors on the back of that intake manifold. Then we can loosen up these intake manifold bolts, pull it off. We're gonna let it sit for the day probably and soak, just like we did with the last one. I'm assuming it's gonna be quite carboned up. This truck doesn't really have many miles on it, but that doesn't mean anything sometimes, guys. So carry on. Okay guys, rad fan is dislodged from the radiator. There is just two push tabs. It's kind of hard to see. Once I get the actual rad fan out of here, I will show you a little bit better. Basically, those plastic legs that, oh, there you can kind of see it. Plastic legs on the fan just clip into two recesses on the rad, and then there's a plastic tab that you've just got to push down to release and pull up. So it's got one of those on both sides, and then we can weasel our fan out of here. So we've obviously, there's a little Torx bolt that holds the intake pipe on here. You're going to want to remove that, and then now that's free from the actual rad fan assembly. Big plug right here, just unplug it, and then we can pull that up, and we'll have a lot more room to access our EGR cooler, which is where we're going now. Oh, watch that latch cable. Okay, so very important to note, guys, when you're pulling this rod fan out, people always complain about BMWs and how crappy they are. So when you're pulling this rod fan out, this little wing is going to be in your way. Amazing. Boom, flip it in, it's out of your way. You can pull the rad fan out. This is what I was talking about. These little legs is what actually clips into the radiator shroud, which I will show you. So it's pretty easy fan to remove. Right here. So as you guys can see, those are where it slides into. It locks into there. Now when you're actually trying to remove that fan, you're gonna push down on here. As you can see, that tab moves. Push that guy, it'll release the fan. And now you can already see, just like on the last one, we've got tons of room now. We're gonna start unbolting the Torx bolts. I don't know if you can see. It's hard to see in here. There's a couple Torx bolts on the back of that EGR cooler bolting onto that flange. We're gonna remove that. We've got some of these vacuum lines removed. Then we're gonna pull these coolant lines. We're gonna go downstairs, drain the coolant out of this thing, and these are just gonna get capped off. So yeah, as you can see in the anti-shutter valve, a little bit of oil residue. I think it's pretty common on these diesels. Okay guys, so the EGR cooler is off. These are your two blocking caps. So one is going to go here, and then there's another one that is kind of hard to see. Maybe you can see it right there. So that's right beside the thermostat. It was a little easier on the silver truck. The last one we did, we actually changed the thermostat, which is right here. I do suggest you guys do change the thermostat, which is a big issue on these. This truck has very low mileage, and that is a brand new turbo there. So we're gonna leave that up to the customer. Anyways, we're gonna put those caps on, and we're gonna work on bolting on the EGR block off plate. You can see nice and clear there. This is our block off plate. We're gonna put a little bit of blue Loctite on there, some exhaust gasket, and we'll carry on. All right, one block off, two block off, and EGR block off is there. Back to the intake manifold. Let's get these bolts and the nuts and start pulling this puppy off. Okay guys, don't forget on the back of the intake manifold there is a wire connector for the SWIRL FLAP motor. Got our bolts all off. Another thing you're going to want to remember, there's a 10 mil right here on this bracket that holds the oil dipstick. You're going to want to remove that guy. And then just work your way around, make sure all the connectors are disconnected. Anti-shutter valve, you got the nuts there. Boom, 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 boom. Looks like it's ready to come off. I actually lied to you guys. That SWIRL FLAP motor on the back of the intake, that is actually separate. It's not part of the intake, so don't worry about that. It's been 10 or 12 months since I did the last one, so can't remember everything. Anyways, let's try to pull the old girl off. So that's the connector that I remembered in the back here. Is going to be a connector. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just like the last one, intake's off, so we're going to delete this anti-shutter valve. Obviously that's where our EGR was going, and we are going to take out SWIRL FLAPos. So they come out on the bottom side like this. We're going to get rid of this whole actuator assembly. Sure is a lot of parts that come off of these things when you do these kits, so it's pretty nice. Carry on. Okay, so first things first, T20 screws. We're gonna remove all of these guys. Just work your way around. Nice and easy, remove all these. Then we're gonna remove 2 more T20s right here. And so those actually hold the SWIRL FLAP motor actuator to the intake manifold. And then we're gonna see how carboned up these ones are. We've got a set on the shelf we pulled out of the silver X5. Considerably more miles, probably 100,000 more miles. I'm gonna compare them and see what the difference is. Although the ones that came out of the silver truck were pretty good considering the mileage, so let's just hope the same case for these. So I'm just using a little trim tool like this to pull these SWIRL flaps out. Honestly, without comparing these to the ones on the shelf, I'm gonna say these are gonna be worse than the other X5, and this one has way less miles. But just because it's got less miles doesn't mean how to ease your life. A lot of people don't understand. These diesels, they need a lot of heat. Driving this thing around town, putting around, it doesn't do much for it, and this is kind of what happens. A lot of carbon buildup. Alright guys, so for demonstration purposes, these are the SWIRL flaps out of the white X5. So this is 90,000 kilometers. If you look, so it's got some thick, heavy deposits, which is a little bit different from, you see how thick some of those deposits are in there? I think what happened here, this thing has such low mileage, it really didn't see the highway, it really didn't see the heat. Because if you compare those to these are honestly about equal. Maybe slightly better, or about the same. But this set of SWIRL flaps came out of an X5 with 150,000 miles, so that's 240,000 kilometers. Whereas this one had 90,000 kilometers. So we're just starting to clean the intake. As you can see, this is some carbon that's coming out of it. I'm nowhere near done. I'm going to spend a couple hours cleaning this thing, and then we'll see how she ends up. What a beautiful day. Gotta take advantage of these days, try and work outside as much as I can. I got the intake sitting outside here, basking in the sun. I got it filled with some purple power, so I'm just gonna let it sit for many hours while I start removing the crankshaft dampener. On my way home, I'm gonna stop at the dollar store, get a nice bristle brush, something like that you would use for dishes or glasses. I'm gonna clean these up some more tomorrow. I just kind of started scraping some of the heavy crap off with the pick tool. So anyways, back inside we go. Crankshaft dampener part of the scenario. I don't have the proper locking pin kit for the transmission, so I had to do this the old-fashioned way. I just had somebody hang on a pry bar at the flywheel, crack the 4 bolts loose, and I actually cheated on the stretch belt and I cut it off because the customer supplied all new belts. I wouldn't have done that going forward. If I was to do this again when I do it on a silver truck, I'll leave the belt on and try and crack the bolts with the belt on. So I just got to spin these last 2 out, and then I'm going to remove the accessory drive belt and we'll try and get this dampener off. Okay guys, so the dampener is off. Boom. That's what it looks like with all that exposed area. There's the factory one. And the L fluid damper unit. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the alternator belt is on. So, look down here, behind these pulleys, you got a 18 or 19 millimeter hex there. That's your tensioner for the front side belt. As you can see, that's on. Now we're going to go ahead and torque our fluid damper. I believe it's 29 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. I got to check the instructions. So we'll do that. We will put our stretch belt on for the AC, and then we are making good progress here. We could probably put our fan back in, and we'll be at a standstill till tomorrow, and our intake is nice and clean. Okay, running down on our parts. So we got our EGR race pipe left. We're gonna do our clutched alternator pulley, which we should have done before we put that belt on, but you know, good practice for the next one. We're gonna be doing one right away, so like I said, we'll let the intake bath overnight. SWIRL flaps, new intake gaskets. This one is for the anti-shutter valve slash race pipe, it looks like. And yeah, hopefully he's got enough of the, oh yeah, there is. The other side of the intake is just circles, not the squares, so cool. Alright, so pretty much done cleaning the intake. We let it soak a couple nights in a row with some Purple Power, same as I did on the last one. Scraped it out, bought a bunch of stiff bristle brushes to get in there as best as we could. It looks really good though. So we're gonna just go ahead, start putting our new gaskets in. Then we're gonna put our SWIRL flaps in. We're gonna reuse the screws that the original ones were mounted with. We're just gonna put a dab of blue Loctite on them, just so they don't come out. There's part number for you. do, I'll just
leave the key to the fuel cap.
okay, sounds good.
I'll bring the key in the area.
Yeah, just bring me the key and then I'll get her done for you. Okay, they're all in. They're all screwed in. Got a little dab of blue Loctite on all these screws. Probably a little overcautious. We didn't do it on the last one, but we're going to do it on this one. So, we're pretty much ready to put the intake back on. We'll deal with the EGR race pipe once the intake's on the truck. We can do that. So let's go ahead and do that. Intake manifold's on. We're going to grab our snap-on 3/8 torque wrench, look up the torque specs, torque everything. EGR race pipe's going on. We're going to separate the anti-shutter valve from the factory one, bolt that back onto the EGR race pipe. Alright, so we're going to move on to an important step. We're going to torque our fluid dampener bolts as the instructions show here. Those are 29 foot-pounds, and then we're going to turn an additional 120 degrees. I do suggest you guys get yourself a nice torque wrench like this. I have the 1/2 inch and the 3/8 digital snap-on. It's so well worth the money. Honestly, if you're doing this for a living or you're doing these kind of jobs, you will really have a lot of peace of mind knowing that you tightened everything, torqued it to spec. And got cut off there. Anyways, what we're talking about is stretch belts. So this particular engine, that front side belt is actually on a tensioner. The air conditioning compressor / crankshaft belt is a stretch belt. And there's no real way to turn the engine on an M57 because there is no center bolt. So some guys do use the 4 crankshaft bolts. A little bit risky, can over torque the hub, premature failure. We don't want to do that. So what we actually did is use the alternator pulley to spin the belts. You're gonna have to use the tensioner on the back side, put a little bit of extra pressure on it, it will spin everything. What I ended up doing is I use this tool. I'm in a pinch. I don't have the proper BMW tool. Imagine that. 59370 Lysol. This one, Lyle brand, sorry. This one's got a little magnet. I tried my original stretch belt tool, but that will not work with the fluid dampener. This one, first try. Like I said, I put a little tension on the actual tensioner pulley, and then I used the alternator belt or I use the alternator pulley itself, the nut, to spin with a 1/2 inch breaker bar. And I got the belt on first time. So honestly, a lot of people fight with that belt. Being in a pinch and not having the right tool, the right BMW tool, it still worked out real nice. No damage done to the belt, didn't stretch it. That tool worked really good. I wasn't sure how to secure it on the actual dampener itself, but this one's got a pretty strong magnet, so it actually sits there nice and saved me. 30 bucks really saved me. We're back. Finishing up the X5 today. Not much left really. Put the rad fans in. Rad fan, I should say. We're just changing out that alternator pulley to that clutch style alternator pulley. So show you what we did here. Not enough room to get my impact in there, and I had the swivel on it with an extension. It's just not enough room between the rad and the alternator to get my impact in there, because if you've ever taken one of these pulleys off, it just spins, obviously. So I've unbolted the alternator from the engine, just 2 bolts. You have to remove one idler right here. It actually shares the same bolt as the lower alternator bolt. All I'm going to do is tip it back. I'll have enough room to get my impact on there. 24mm nut. We're going to remove that, put the new clutch style alternator pulley on there. So we've also cleaned up some of our non-used connectors now. Now somebody else had done some previous work on this X5, so we got a couple more to do from the last guy. We're just gonna tape those up, zip tie them. I don't like to leave connectors like this open. I noticed actually underneath the X5 there's a bunch like that, and they just kind of left them. I do not like that, because if somebody was to put all the stock parts back on, those chances of those pins are going to be corroded. So we're not going to do that. On the bottom side, actually, what I like to do is put them in a Ziploc bag. Then I will tape that Ziploc bag with electrical tape, make sure it's watertight, and then I will zip tie it up out of place. So looking good. We also removed the charge pipe, as you can see here, just to get a little bit better access for this alternator ordeal. And then finally, we are just going to do a final torque on our harmonic balancer, put our fan back in, and we'll be ready to start this puppy up. Okay, so that's how I got the alternator. I just got it bungeed kind of in a nice angle so that I could fit my impact on there. 24mm nut, pulley comes off nice and easily. Okay, so that spacer goes on the back, or else your pulley is going to bottom out and hit that alternator case. Got a little thread locker on there. Now I'm going to use the center Torx to snug this pulley up, because there's no other way. There is no nut like you have on the other one. Okay guys, so again, a couple things to note with this job. A lot of people ask questions like how do you turn the engine over on the M57, because there is no center bolt on the actual crankshaft pulley. You just have the 4 mounting bolts, but you don't want to really use those because the harmonic balancer already is prone to fail on these, and you kind of risk overstretching those bolts. Another thing that I noticed on the forums, so there is actually a tool that gets sold that bolts into these 4 bolts, and it's got a little nub on the end of it where you can put a 1/2 inch ratchet, and that's how you can turn your crankshaft. Another little trick for you guys, if you don't have that and you're in a pinch, you can use a 31mm 12-point socket. Will actually fit over all 4 of those. Or another way, this is the way that I did it. Again, sometimes you just need to get a job done, and you know what I mean, like that's just the way it goes. So what we did here is obviously you can use that alternator pulley nut to spin the engine over, but it's going to Generally, just spin on that pulley and it's not going to turn the whole engine over. So what I did was I actually used the tensioner here with the 19mm. I put some extra pressure on the tensioner while spinning the crankshaft pulley, and that was enough to spin the whole engine over. It's actually not as crazy as you would think to spin that engine over. And I'm just going to show you guys how I oriented this tool. Again, Lyle brand 59370. Works really nice for me. Where's my light? So basically, guys, this is how, if you see here, it's got a magnet on it, and it's a pretty strong magnet. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty surprised. So the nice thing is this actually works with the fluid damper, which is kind of an interesting pulley to get your standard stretch belt tools on. It's not going to work on here. So like I said, I put it there. I set it on my AC compressor, and then what I did, like I said, I put a little tension on the tensioner. I spun the engine over on the alternator, and you'll see you'll be able to get the belt onto about right here as it normally sits, and then with your tool there, as you start to spin the belt, you're gonna see it's gonna pull it onto that pulley. It works real nice. So again, if you guys are in a pinch and you're wondering, these are important questions. As you can see, I actually did not put the alternator clutch pulley on, even though we were already there. We had it all apart. The problem is I don't have the spline drive to hold this side of the pulley while I actually tighten up that Torx. So I'm gonna have to send this guy as is for now, and he's gonna have to come back sometime next week or the following once I get that little tool. It's pretty easy. The primary drive belt is a little bit easier than the stretch belt, I would say, so it's not a big deal. Okay, we're gonna give you guys a little demonstration of putting that stretch belt on. So as you can see, on one side of the tool it says install, and on one side it says remove. So for the install side, we're going to place it like this. Nice good look. There you go. So that magnet is actually what's holding it to the dampener. The other styles usually use a bolt. So this one's got a magnet. So we've got our belt sitting on the AC compressor loosely. Okay, so you're gonna get it right about there. You can see how much we've got to stretch, but it's okay. I'm gonna put this guy right here. And hopefully you can catch that. Hopefully you guys were able to catch that on the camera. As you can see, We've spun it around. Our tool is on the exit and exit. So not totally happy with how it's sitting on the AC compressor there, but we're gonna shift it over. Okay, we got our torque wrench set to 120 degrees for the second stage of those stretch bolts for the balancer. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you guys. So this is how some other people do things. I don't agree with this at all. So we've got a open line, open connector. We got another one sitting there. So we're gonna zip lock those. We're gonna zip tie them up. We're gonna do it the proper way, the way that I would do it on my own vehicle. And that's the way I like to work on vehicles. I like to do it the way as if it was my own. Okay, so you can see the front stretch belt nice and aligned on the AC compressor. We had a little bit of an issue with that. The secondary belt behind the primary, everything looks good there. It sounds good so far. Idles come down, fans running, no leaks. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Another fun 35D. We'll be doing more of these. You know, I like these. I'll probably have mine in here in the next little while, do a couple more things to mine. So everything looks good. It sounds great. Big difference, honestly, as far as noise level is concerned between mine and this one. This one has a muffler delete. I do not. It makes a big difference, actually, as you guys can hear in the sound clip. This thing sounds awesome. It sounds really, really, really great. The turbo noises are just crazy. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and put our engine cover back on, do a quick little bolt check like we like to do. We'll take it for a test drive, make sure everything is hunky-dory on our drive. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in to another video. I promise I will do a better job of making videos a little bit more regularly. Like I said in another previous video, a lot's been going on, a lot of big changes in my life, important ones, ones that are going to take me to the next level here. So thanks again, guys. Take care, keep your sticks on the ice.